Talkin! For educational purpose only.
What is up, guys? Now you know we're the plug-in. We're here to hook you up, and we ain't talking no bullshit hookups either, fam. From grow lights to fertilizers, if you need dry or liquid organic fertilizers, Neptune's Harvest has got you covered. Made by growers, for growers, Neptune's Harvest has some of the best fish fertilizer around. Not just that, but their crab and lobster shell, the stuff is amazing. Lots of people don't always realize this, but after filleting a fish, there's lots of great stuff that remains, but may just go to waste. Now Neptune's Harvest was able to turn that amazing stuff into some great fertilizer that's used by many gardeners across the globe. Your plants will love you for it, dude. From veg and flower nutrients to loads of other organic inputs that you can work into your existing feeding schedules, it's truly amazing. Use the discount code ICANTHC for a nice discount on all Neptune's Harvest products. Perfect. Now, light is also super important to get the best quality and product. The sun is perfect, but for those times when we can't harness the sun, the Moss Hydro Grow Lights never disappoint. Their full spectrum LEDs, they rock! They've got quantum board, bar style lights, they've got all types of styles. Their lights come with external dimmers, some models even have awesome detachable features as well. So use the discount code ICANTHC and snag a discount on your lights, exhaust systems, and more, even your grow tents, dude. Perfect. Now Qualitrips has some awesome gear, and their germination booster is truly amazing. Definitely couple up their germination booster with some of their gear for amazing results. Discount code ICANTHC works on all Qualitrips gear. Now smash the like button down below, hit that bell, roll one up, and let's get ready to toke it down on today's episode.
We're about to take it back.
Okay. Yes, guys, how is it going? Welcome back to another episode on the Talkin' Loud podcast, where we discuss everything dank, sticky, icky, gassy, and all that good stuff. And today, I got a very special guest on today because, guys, it's super important to know about some of the stuff when it comes to seed to sale and even all those stuff in between, especially with the growing wave of legalization, and that's super important. So today with us to break all that down is Elden Brown, CEO of Broadleaf Cannabis. How's it going, Elden? Super stoked to have you on the show, man.
Good, Matt. Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate being able to join you today.
Hell yeah, most definitely. Like I was mentioning just now, there are a lot of people, they're home growers, but there are also a lot of people who are in the commercial space and a lot of people who may not be home growers, but have to frequent the dispensaries and stuff. And it's just super important, learning about some of these things. And also for the people who want to go into it, because with the wave of, growing legalization, a lot more people are looking into, getting their own license, doing that sort of stuff as, maybe a state where they're at becomes legal. So we can break down some of that stuff today. But before we get into any of that stuff, I'd just like to ask everyone to smash the like button. And I like to ask you, how's it going on where you're chilling at? Where are you kicking it at? How's it going on over there?
Yeah, so things are great. We've launched a new platform here in the last couple months. I think we met at CanaCon. And so it's a really exciting time for us. We're just trying to get the word out and show people what we're doing and, give people tools to, improve the outcomes that they're getting.
Yeah, so true, man. And you guys do a lot of different things, man. So props to you on that. But before we get into like all the nitty gritty and stuff, like tell me a little bit about Elden, man. How did Elden, how did you get into the industry? Like what made you say, yeah, this is something that interests me and I'm just going to go for it, man?
Okay, yeah. Well, my background has been in software. So like that's what I've always done. And about 3 years ago, a friend of mine who I had worked with a lot in the past was starting to get into the industry, and we kind of connected and hooked up with one of the cultivators in Michigan and started to learn more about the industry and what they were doing, and really started to see that there were gaps in the tools that people had available. And we were kind of looking for, what's that opportunity to take our background in software and helping companies be able to, streamline their processes and just improve what they were doing. Like, how could we bring that to the industry? Because we could see where the industry is going. It's growing, quickly, and more states are legalizing. And, it takes a lot, as to be successful. And so we just started to look at what could we bring to the table based on our backgrounds. And that's where the idea for Broadleaf software came from, and for the products that we developed.
Awesome, man. I always love hearing about like how people got into the industry. And I just wanted to pull this up real quick because this is the whole Broadleaf team. The gang's all here, guys. Everyone's here. And we got this really snazzy picture of Elden, the CEO, and he's an expert in optimizing workflows and efficiency by improving, people, processes, and technology. And I think I read somewhere else on the website that pretty much what you just mentioned, you guys came together and started something amazing. So how has it been like on that journey, starting it all off? I'm sure it couldn't have been easy, right?
No, I mean, it's tough. This industry is tough, as people who are in it know this, but I think even though it's growing and there's a lot of great opportunity, there's a lot of ups and downs. And for us, it's about getting the right product to people that can really use it, and making sure that everything that we're building and that we're providing is going to be effective and is what people need at different stages. And so the big thing for us is just getting the word out and getting visibility so that people know what we're doing. That's why we're at events like MJ BizCon and CanaCon, because especially now there are so many people entering this industry that it can be tough to stand out. And so, I would say that's probably the toughest part, is kind of, making sure that people see you and see what you're doing and hear about you when there are so many other companies, so many other people trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. And with the growing, wave of legalization, and I hope it continues, because there's still a long way to go. But with that growing wave, a lot more people are coming into the space, and not just that, but a lot more people are coming into the space with an understanding and an acceptance of the plant. But that's not everyone, and it's not worldwide as yet. So you still do feel a little bit of the pressure, when you're out there and you're trying to do this stuff, as opposed to, maybe if you're doing something else. I can say, right here on YouTube, it's always a struggle dealing with the community guidelines and the algorithm, because YouTube operates worldwide, and we got struck with an episode and all sorts of stuff, man. But my point is that the plant is really becoming less of a demonized plant, less of a stigma attached to it. And I think that what you guys are doing is really important, because it brings that loop to the home grower, the cultivator, the person who wants to frequent the dispensary, and the state's laws, and that's a really important sort of bridge that you need to connect, because if you don't, you can find yourself in some hot water. So tell us a little bit about exactly what Broadleaf does. And I love the little slogan, "Seed to sale is not enough." So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So basically, what we do is we give people the tools that let them plan out and manage, the plant from the beginning to the end. And so, one of the things that we see is, there's a great community out there, and people are always looking for different ways to, improve their strains, improve their yields. And a lot of times what happens is you're managing kind of on instinct, and you're trying different things, and it's easy to go through that. And then you get to the end, and you may have, you may do a harvest that's really, really good, or a harvest that, didn't meet your standards. And you need the ability to look back and say, well, what was different? What was different about this harvest? And, can I pinpoint and figure out why I either got better results or worse results? Because if you got better results, you want to be able to repeat that again and again. And if you didn't get the results you want, well, you don't want to do that anymore. And it's hard to keep track, to understand and think back and realize, like, well, what did we do and what did we try with this batch that we didn't with the others? So our software lets you plan that in advance, and then at the end, once you see what the actual results were, what the product actually was like, whether you got the flavor, you got the THC results, whatever it is, that you can go back and see, the history of what exactly happened with that group of plants, so that you can either replicate it or avoid it again. So it's really about giving tools to track along the way and use that to plan for the future. I mean, nobody wants to be told how to grow. Like we knew that early on, that it's not about us coming in and saying you need to do this or you need to do that, because nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, you'll get that resistance. A lot of growers,
right.
They're set in their ways, but they want to know how they can improve,
Right. Well, and let's face it, they are, over time, they're tuning into their environment, to their strains, their plants, and nobody knows that better than they do. So we don't want to try and tell people how to grow. We want to give people the tools to manage it and be able to capture that information along the way. And that way they can go back and replicate it when they do get that dialed in. Yeah. And as you're showing here, like compliance, we all know how important compliance is. Compliance is also not a lot of value for you, right? Like, you've got to keep the state happy, but what do you get in return? You don't get a whole lot in return.
You get them not harassing you, and
right.
Yeah.
And you spend all that time, all that money. You've got people almost dedicated to doing that. So we wanted to look at that and say, well, how could we turn that around so that with all the time that you're spending, with all that information you're actually giving to the state, how can we turn around and make that useful? And that's where we released our newest product called Aperture, where we connect to Metric, for example, and we take all that data going all the way back to day one and turn that into reports and dashboards, so that you get actual value out of all that information that you sent to the state. And now you can start looking at, over time, are my yields going up? Are my yields going down? Or what strains perform best in which rooms? If you've got 3 or 4 flower rooms, you got to figure out, strains just like certain rooms for reasons you may or may not be able to like put your finger on, but the data doesn't lie. So when you see the results, you can identify like what's working, what's not. And that's our whole goal, is put that information back in people's hands so that now they're getting something in return for collecting all of that and sending it to the state.
I love that, man. And that is a great point as well, because you can learn a lot from the data, and not just in our industry, but I noticed that that's a trend that's across a lot of industries. Like, I'm a huge soccer fan, football fan, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of the, American-based ownerships and stuff, they take a lot of focus on the data, and they make a lot of their next moves based on the data. And it's not just in that industry, but in a lot of other industries, the data is super key. So just you guys bringing that, into this industry makes a lot of sense, because you can now track your terpene profiles, you can track the plants, you can track what sort of lateral branching, what sort of traits you want, you can track all the sorts of different things. And if you got an issue, you can look back and be like, okay, this caused the issue. It's a lot easier to pinpoint what happened, so I think that there are a lot of benefits when it comes to, tracking with the data. And is that something that you guys have, gotten feedback from some of the customers about? Has the data improved their end product?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've seen, and this is, it gets, the more you scale up, the bigger your operation becomes, the more important this really is. Yeah. And so we've had customers, just a couple of examples of things that were in the data that they really probably wouldn't have noticed, or they wouldn't have noticed as quickly if they didn't have our tools. So like, one example is, we had a customer they opened a new facility. They had a bunch of new employees. And of course, you're training people, but not everybody has that experience. And some people are better than others at following directions, right? So what happened is, they could see in the data that something wasn't going right. Their their yield was down, and they, everything, when they look back, everything was the way that it was supposed to be. Well, what they found out when they started to look at the data is they started digging in around the irrigation data, and they found an employee that wasn't following the proper procedure. So they just needed some more training. But when you think about, like, how long does it take to spot that as a problem? And, when you're busy, you're growing, you're just trying to get everything done. You don't always have time to double check and see what everybody's doing. So they're able to see that very clearly right in the data and say, well, wait a minute, like, this room's only getting half the water, which means half the nutrients that it's supposed to get. No wonder we didn't get the results that we wanted. So they're able to see that right in the data. And the nice thing is that they can be looking at that at home on the weekend. Like, it's, you don't have to be standing there in order to actually use it. So that's one example. Another thing that one of our customers found just looking at the data is we have some really interesting reports that take a look at all of your packages and your products. So they had products, gummies, edibles, things that they were, had made and were selling, and a couple of boxes got lost, a couple of cases of product kind of not lost, but they kind of got lost in the shuffle. They were on the back of a shelf somewhere.
Okay.
And so we have reports that say, like, what's your oldest product that you have? And they were seeing things they didn't even realize they had. So instead of that product expiring and having to be thrown out, because they're not gonna send out, old product that's not good anymore. So they were able to catch it before it was expired, and and get it out and get it sold, and not have a loss of like 2 cases worth of product. So those are just a couple of the things that stories that we've gotten back from our customers about what they've found in the data, that it's not that it was invisible, but it wouldn't have been brought front and center the way that it was when they used the software.
Yeah, and that's amazing, because like that's something that can wipe out your entire crop. You miss one little irrigation system thing, something happens. Small things often cause big results, and
Right.
just like you guys say here on your website, you guys have a lot of benefits. So not only, does it help you to look out for stuff with the data and manage trends, but it also reduces time spent in planning, which is a big thing, because you take a lot of time, planning. How do I get things set up? I want to get it set up, super efficiently. Recently, we had on some mechanical environments, man, and they do like HVAC stuff, and they were stressing how important, planning is when it comes to setting up a commercial grow operation or anything like that, or even a home grow. You really got to plan. Where's my exhaust going to be? Where's my light source? If I'm running DWC, where's my water source coming from? So you guys also help with a lot with the planning, and you guys have some great customer reviews. So can you just tell me a little bit about how important it is just to get that planning dialed in?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you spend so much time trying to figure out just the right formula, just the right way to get the best results. And if you aren't tracking that, then you can't repeat it. And if you don't have it captured, you don't even know how to repeat it. So what we do is let you capture that information, and then to repeat it for the next time, it makes it super simple, because you've already mapped out what is successful based on your methodology, your knowledge, your environment, your facility. And then the next time you go to plan a new room, you just drop those variables in and you pick the recipe that works for you in the past. And then everything that has to happen is automatically populated out from there. So your entire schedule, who needs to do what, on exactly what day do you need to flip the room or flip the lights. And, obviously you still need to be able to adjust here and there. You need to be able to give, sometimes you want to veg a couple more days, or you're going to flip them earlier because, the plants, they kind of do what they want to do. They don't always listen. So that flexibility is important too. But now if you're responsible for managing multiple rooms, multiple crops of plants, all of that is now, in one place, and you need to move things around. You need to move, people around. You need to flip things early or give things a couple of extra days. It's just a matter of like drag and drop versus doing it manually on paper or on whiteboards. And once you figure out that you have something you want to change going forward, you go in and just change that once. And now from here on out, when you're planning new, you're planting new crops, it automatically just takes that forward for you.
Yeah. Wow. Makes a lot of sense, man. And it seems like the benefits are endless when it really comes to something like this. And I just had up on screen, it also helps with not just the management, but also the strain and crop planning. You can plan your crops. And you mentioned here forecasting and product availability. So you can also, sort of forecast, look into the future, so to speak, and be like, okay, this is what I'm about to have coming up. It should be ready by about this date. And it really helps you to dial everything in. So can you just touch a little bit on, the forecasting and product availability sort of
Sure.
stuff?
Yeah. So because you've created these recipes now, even as I'm planning, like if I know when my room is going to be empty or when I can, cut a new batch of clones, because that's all in the system, it will automatically forecast out then, well, this is when you'll flip to flower, this is when you'll harvest, this is how long it'll be before you're able to trim. And so now you're looking at the schedule, so you know exactly when those things are going to happen based on your experience, on your history. But the other thing is we're tracking your yields by strain for every single plant. So we're also able to forecast it. Sometimes it's really scary how accurate we're able to forecast exactly how much flour you're going to get, how much shake
Wow.
trim are you going to get. And so now you start planning
Wait.
for,
You guys can
yeah,
forecast the trim as well?
yes, based on
Wow.
historical data. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And so the more experience you get with that strain, the better we're able to predict. And over time, it gets really, really accurate.
Wow, that is mind-blowing stuff, man. That is crazy.
Yep.
So you can be like, okay, this room should give me like X amount of grams, and I can get like this amount of like nice flour and maybe this amount of popcorn flour.
Exactly.
Wow.
Well, and when you look, if you look at a room, sometimes people will they'll grow the same strain. They'll
Yeah.
fill the room with the same strain. But a lot of times you're trying to kind of combine, different strains, because maybe you've got a strain that you're known for it. The flavor is great. But the yields per plant are a little bit lower. So you don't want to do an entire room because then your yield is going to be lower. But you might do 25% of that, and then you mix that with the rest. The 75% is then one of your higher yielding strains. So now when you mix those together, you can forecast that and say, I still get to grow the stuff I love that doesn't yield quite as much, but I know I have the right balance. And when I take that room down and when I harvest it, I'm going to get the yield that I need in order to be able to pay for the next turn.
Wow, that is intense, man. That is crazy. I did not know that that's the level that the data had really arrived at, at this point in time. I had no idea. So that's crazy, man. Guys, if you find that interesting, smash the like button, because Elden is on here dropping some crazy knowledge and really opening up a lot of our eyes to some of this stuff, man. So this is really, really amazing, man. But one thing I wanted to switch gears just a little bit and talk about is compliance, man, because compliance is super important. And it's one of those things. I think you guys have like a whole department dedicated to it, a whole page on your website dedicated to it, and it's really important when it comes to eliminating risks, because you can run foul of laws and stuff super easy. So can you just explain, like, what exactly is compliance for someone who has no idea what compliance even means? What is compliance?
Sure. Well, if you're a licensed grower, you have to track from the moment that you cut a clone all the way until the end product is out your door. You have to track every single thing you do. You have
Wow.
to track where the plants are, how many, when they grow, depending, it's all state by state, but when they get to a certain size, usually about 8 inches, they need a tag that has a serial number on it. And the state, of course, can come in at any time and say, well, you according to our records that you've provided, you have 236 plants with these serial numbers in flower room 2. Let's walk over there. I want to check and make sure that that's
Audit
exactly what
time.
you have. Audit time, exactly. So it's, you have to track stuff to such a minuscule degree that it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So anything you can do to make that process easier is going to be better for you, because again, that keeps the state happy, which
Yeah.
is very important, because if they're not happy, you're not going to be happy. But at the end of the day, keeping on top of that compliance isn't what, grows better product, isn't what gives you better flavor. It's, it keeps you compliant, which is really important, but it keeps you out of trouble, but it doesn't really give you an improvement to your product. So anything we can do to make that process as simple and as easy as possible, we try and do. The other challenge with compliance is it's all about when you touch the plant and what you do with the plant, you have to report that to the state. Well, in most places, the people that are on the front line that are doing that work, that are moving the plants, or they're they're deleafing, or whatever it is that they're doing that has to be reported, that's a different group and a different skill set. These are your gardeners. These are people who know about the plant and the process. They're not compliance experts, and you don't need them, and you don't want to spend the time having them learn every single detail of what you have to report to the state. So you've got a team, you got a group that's doing the work, and then you've got people that are making sure you stay compliant. So what we try to do is connect those two groups of people. So if I'm the one doing the work, I just can report exactly what I did. I can make sure that it was done correctly, but that gets sent to the compliance person, and they have a chance then to review it, look for anything that looks out of place. We all make mistakes. And so there's going to be mistakes during that process. Well, that's that check and balance, because now I've got a compliance person that can review that. And we don't send anything to the state until it's been reviewed and it gets signed off by a second person. So that's like extra protection to make sure that you're not submitting something that is going to come back to bite you.
Yeah, that's great stuff, man. And I think that that's super important as well. And a lot of people may overlook the importance of compliance, man. And like you mentioned, and you put it so succinctly, you don't get anything from compliance. You don't get anything back, but you stay compliant. You stay, within the realms of the laws. Because I've worked in as an attorney back in the Caribbean, man, and I also was in like the banking sector, and it's super important when it comes to compliance as well. We've got a whole department, dedicated to compliance. So it's no different when it comes to, the canna industry. It's pretty much the same thing. You got to stay compliant with the laws, or else you'll be fucked, man. And a lot of people don't understand like the heavy hand that the law can come down with sometimes. You have all your licenses stripped away. You can get serious fines. I think I've seen like 100K of inventory or more, that can just be destroyed by the state, and you have no recourse to it whatsoever, man. So just break it down. How important is the compliance, and what's the worst sort of fine or anything like that you've seen? I've got up on screen right now one that I actually saw off your website, and that's from MJ Biz Daily, and a few Nevada companies, man. They got stripped of their licenses. They got a $1.25 million fine. Like, that's wild, dude.
I mean, that'll put you out of business if you've got people not following process and you're not staying on top of it. And and it varies from state to state, and sometimes it depends even on the regulator that you're working with. But it can go from a slap on the wrist that says make the changes and improve it, all the way to what you're seeing, which is huge fines. They'll revoke your license, and it's just not worth it, right? And the thing is that that's why it's so important to use tools that will help, because the idea behind what we're trying to do is if you can take away and automate as much of this as possible, it just gives you more time to spend doing the thing you actually like doing, which is growing the plant, improving the outcome, developing new products, new strains. And so, but being compliant is like the minimum. You have to do that. And so whatever you can do to make that automated and to make sure that you've got a way to double check, and that's really important. The other thing is, you also have to have the right people on your team. You need people with that kind of analytical mind that don't mind poring over all the tag numbers and making sure things are right. And that's just a different mindset. There are creative people, and there are more math, logical math type people. And you got to get the right people focused on the right things.
So true. Yeah, my wife
That
says that all the time. I see like numbers and words, and she's more artsy. So when I see something, I'm
Yeah,
like, well, that doesn't make sense because I'm used to like, numbers and words, that sort of thing.
right. Absolutely. It's hard for usually people will lean one direction or the other, and so it's just a matter of getting the right people in the right roles.
Yeah, it's so true, man. And I think compliance is super important because one thing that people may not understand is compliance does not only apply to, those people who have multi-level commercial facilities, huge operations. You can be a small-time farmer with a small license, you got to stay compliant as well. You got to let yourself and everyone else who's involved know this is what I'm doing. I'm compliant. I'm following what I'm doing. And you guys make it super important for those people in particular, those people who don't have tons of money to spend on a whole department. You can get it automated. You can have all your stuff, you print out your labels, okay, I got to go and tag my stuff. Okay, on this day I send it out. So just having that automated, effect for the compliance, it can be, a small thing to do up front, but it can save you a lot of headache down the road, right?
Absolutely. It can be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but it's a small investment up front to make sure you don't have problems down the road. And like I said, and we're trying to look at ways to take all that work and that data that comes, all the things that have to be reported, and turn that around so that you actually get some value back in return, because the states definitely don't make it easy.
Yeah, and that's a great point, man, because you're compiling all this data. So you're giving it to the state because they want to stay on top of what you're doing. They want to make sure you don't run foul of the laws or whatever. But if you're just giving all that data to the state, you're not getting anything back from it. It's almost like, well, I'm doing all this, I'm not making any use of it, but you guys actually step in. You turn that rigorous uh, inconvenience, so to speak, into a benefit. So you now have a
Right.
lot of data. You can read the data. You can see these are my past things. These are my future projections, and it all works out. So I think it's a great double-edged sword. It works out as an inconvenience sometimes having to deal with the compliance, but once you get that data and you really are able to dial it in, there's sky's the limit, man.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big believer in using any piece of data that you can get, because there's always something that you can learn from it, or you can look for patterns, and
Yeah.
look for trends, and it just, in the end, it just makes you better at what you do. Because
Yeah.
if you can't measure it, you can't improve
I got you. And I love this little saying here. No plant left behind, man. No plant is left behind ever. Because if you leave one or two plants behind and that state comes in its audit day, you can get screwed from that one or two plants, man.
Right.
And what I also notice is that some of the fines, they run daily. So if you don't notice and it runs for a couple months, you can rack up thousands, hundreds
Huge
of
fines.
thousands of, man, it's wild. Wow. So thank you
Yeah.
guys for just stepping in and helping everyone out with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that people don't always realize is, the systems that the state uses, or the systems that the state requires you to use, they will, you assume that because it's software, and we're used to software that runs all kinds of different aspects of our lives for us, that if you try to do something you're not allowed to do, that it'll warn you, or it'll stop you, and it'll say, this is not something, this isn't logical or doesn't make sense. A lot of things you can submit to the state, can be things that make no sense whatsoever. For example, you can tell the state that you have -4 plants in
Yeah.
a batch, and obviously you can't have negative plants in a batch. But the software
It
with
reads
the
it.
state will let you submit that all day long. So if you have little mistakes over time, you end up with all kinds of things that not just are like don't make sense, they're impossible.
Yeah.
And so we've built some reporting and some mechanisms to proactively look for those kinds of problems, and bring it to your
And
attention, to say, look, this couldn't
wow.
possibly be true. So we want you to find it and be able to go fix it before somebody else notices it.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I did not actually even think of that because I don't do any reporting. I'm not in a position where I need to. So, but just having that option, where you can input something that can be, it may not make sense. You can't have a negative plant count. I have
Right.
zero plants or I have plants.
Right.
So I can't have negative. So just being able to put that in, that allows for that human error aspect. And if you run foul of the compliance, there's no one checking your stuff down there until it's too late. So when these errors sort of add up and stuff over time, the only person to deal with it is you. It'll fall on your shoulders, you know?
Right. Well, and I mean, your background, you've worked with banking and compliance. You know that it is 1,000 times better for you to find the problem and fix it, and then tell the regulators that here's what happened. We detected it because that shows that you're on top of things,
Yeah.
and we fixed it. That outcome is 1,000 times better than when they find it and you don't even know it's there.
Yeah, it's so true, man. And like sometimes it can be a simple thing, and that's, I think, what you guys take a lot of the guesswork out of it. With you guys' system, you don't have to, decipher anyone else's handwriting. You don't have to figure out what does this say. I can't see. It's
Right.
all fonts that are printed out, and it's all like understandable, easily legible, and all that is super important because one little error can lead you to being foul of compliance, right?
Exactly. Even
Yeah.
just having, one step of your process, if you get that wrong, but you repeat that process day after
Yeah.
day, month after month, and the next thing you know, just one small error is now 1,000 errors. And and even if you don't end up with like a huge fine or anything like that, once you discover it, you have to go back and fix
And
it.
fix
How
it.
much time does that take? How much money does that cost you
Yeah.
when if you detected it early, caught it early, and didn't have to go back and fix it? It's just
Yeah.
those little things really can add up.
Yeah, so true. Great point, man. And a lot of you guys' software, it's not only about the compliance, it's all about improving efficiency for the grower. You guys are for the grower, but you also help people stay compliant. And one thing I just wanted to pull up here is that you guys' software allows for growers to create multiple recipes with different grow cycles, different tasks, different watering schedules, and a lot more. So can you just touch on that? Like what exactly are those different sort of recipes and cycles that growers have
Sure.
been using with your systems?
Sure. Well, we see, we have customers that they have multiple methods for growing. So they have indoor, they have outdoor, they have greenhouse. And what this allows them to do is create specific recipes for all the different ways that they grow. So they can adjust, whether it's, they sometimes will propagate indoors and then plant outdoors, and they can plan for all of that. And, or even by strain. So if you have a group of strains that need to veg a little longer than other types, you just create a separate recipe for those. So those might veg for 16 days instead of 14. And then when you go to plan for that, you just pick the right recipe, and then it will schedule out your rooms and everything based on that specific recipe for what you're putting in the room just
Ooh,
for that turn.
I
And then the
got you.
next time around, you can mix it up. So we know that you don't grow every plant, every strain in exactly the same way. And so, our software has to be able to be flexible and has to work with that.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense as well because a lot of growers grow in different ways. So being able to really dial it in with the software, okay, I'm using a drip irrigation system, okay, I'm using this sort of feeding schedule, this sort of that. It really
Right.
helps you to more accurately, forecast and do that sort of stuff that we were mentioning earlier. So really, the benefits, like I keep saying, they're endless when it comes to like having this sort of software, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And just switching gears a little bit, man, because we're just touching on the cultivation aspect of things. And you guys have a lot of like data-driven dashboards. You guys dashboards are really intuitive from what I've seen, and they got a lot of data. And just walk us through a little bit about what we can expect to see on one of these dashboards. How can they really help the grower, especially when it comes to generating revenue in a commercial space?
Yeah, absolutely. So the dashboards are going to do a few different things. So one is just keeping track of everything, making sure that you have for example, we have dashboards that just tell you like how many plants you have in different phases and what licenses
Ooh,
are they growing under. So just basic stuff like making sure that you don't exceed the number of plants that are
yeah,
on your license, that you can see how many plants you have in different phases, what rooms are they in, what strains are they, and then forecasting that. So I can look, if I'm using our software, I can see right now across every room I have, every facility I have, I can see exactly how much I have of every strain and how much flower I'm expected to yield from that.
Okay.
And some of that, I mean, that comes from the moment I cut that clone. I can
Yeah.
already forecast all of that. So we have things like that. And then we show trends over time. So we can show, like, are your yields going up or are they going down? Or what kind of yields am I getting from each of my strains? So I can make sure
Gotcha.
that I'm growing the right mix of strains that, so that I'm getting the volume of product that I know that I need to be able to, generate enough revenue to stay in business.
Yeah.
Um, and then, like I was talking earlier, now we can start really digging into things like, well, which strains grow best in which room, or
Yeah.
uh, we also integrate at the
Wow.
wholesale and retail side, so we can start to look at things like what's really selling. If I have 10 different strains, how quickly do they sell once I get them out into retail, and am I growing more of what sells the fastest, and looking at even the mix of products, edibles, cartridges, and saying, like, how much product do I have left based on my sales? Am I going to run out of something? What should I be making more of, and what do I already have enough of on hand? So we start really digging into that data, and then we correlate that data across the board. So one of the things we do is we take and look at the most recent sales data, like what's flower selling for, because we know that fluctuates, and over the past year in a
So
lot of
true.
places that has dropped
Yeah.
significantly. And I can immediately take that back and say, well, what impact does that have on all the plants that I have right now? What are those plants worth? And I can actually see, as the value of flower goes up, I see what that does for everything that I'm growing, not just based on the number of plants, but also exactly on the exact yields I'm expecting to get from each of those plants based on the strain and the historical data. So, we're correlating a lot of that data that right now, you're using one system in your dispensary for POS, one system to sell, wholesale. So, and then you've got your seed to sale that you're using to manage your compliance and cultivation. Those systems don't talk to each other, and if they do, it's for very minimal types of communication. So
Yeah.
what we do is we go out, we connect with all of that, bring it together, and then we process all of it and create those dashboards and reports.
Wow. And that's interesting, man. That's crazy interesting, and it's super efficient as well, because I love seeing like numbers and data and dashboards and stuff, and that really helps you to zone in on what's going right, what's going wrong, what you need to improve on. So there are a lot of benefits when it comes to actually using these dashboards. So I'm really excited to see where you guys take this, and how far you guys can really keep scaling, because you guys' growth has really been great, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of it, man. But I just thought maybe it'll be a perfect time just to segue into the Know Your Bud segment, which is pretty much a segment that I like to ask everyone. I like to say everyone that comes onto the show is my bud, and I like to find out what they do with their buds, and it just helps us all to get to know you a little better. So
Sure.
there's no right or wrong answer to anything. It's just tell me what's your preference and why. I'm gonna just throw out a couple options. It's all about
Okay.
you. Alrighty, let's get into it, man. The Know Your Bud segment, which is sponsored by Qualitrips. Let's go, guys. Hell yeah. Now, when it comes to germination, what's your preference? Paper towel method, glass of water, or straight into the soil?
I would say paper towel for sure.
I got you. I got you. A lot of people like that, so no harm, no foul play. Next
I
one,
don't want to
though.
start any fights.
Yeah, I like that one, man. We got some controversial ones on here, so wait till we get to those ones. The next
Okay.
one is feminized or regs. What's your preference and why?
I would say, I mean, I don't feel super strongly about this one, but I think I would say feminized.
Okay, I got you. Some people just like the certainty, man. So is that something with you as well? You just like that certainty?
Yeah, I'm a planner, like
Yeah, I got you.
so yeah,
Yeah, makes a
exactly.
lot of sense. You're a numbers guy like me, man. You like to know what's
Right.
happening, when it's gonna happen. All righty, man. The next one is photo periods or autoflowers. What's your preference?
Oh, photo periods. I mean, to me, just having that control
Yeah,
and predictability. I mean, being able to really by strain, be able to like really tune into it and know exactly what they need and when. Like
yeah.
that to me, that's how you get the best result.
The real winner, man. You can really hone in. And if you're a data guy, you definitely will say that. So I could not
Yeah.
expect anything else. Oh, man. The next one, though, synthetics or organics? What's your preference?
You know, organics are tough because I just think there's a lot more room for error, and you got to be really careful. So I think outcomes. I think you can get excellent outcomes on both.
I like that.
But I would lean towards synthetics because
I got you.
again, it's more predictable, more consistent.
Yeah, I got you. No right or wrong answer, dude. It's all about your preference, man. The next one, though, is wet trim or dry trim. This one has been a little controversial in the past.
I'm gonna say dry trim, and I don't know if I have like a really solid explanation for that, but just
let's hear it, man. Hit me with it.
Yeah, personally, I just find it a little bit easier, but I know that one is. I know people are all over the place on that one.
We had a few people on the show. They went wet trim for like 3 or 4 weeks straight, and everyone was like, "Wow, wet trim! Now he's crazy, dude." But a lot of people like the dry trim, man. I myself like a little bit of a wet and dry sort of thing. Take off all the fan leaves and hang it to dry. Trim it afterward. But the next one, though, bong or joint? What's your preference?
Bong. Yeah, a little bit.
A lot of people they're split on that one, so I always like to find out what you guys got to say. And the last one, edibles or vapes?
I will say vape, just because not that I don't like edibles, but vape, it's like you get the instant hit, so you're not sitting around waiting for it to kick in.
To maybe hit you, maybe it hits you too hard, maybe I'm gonna go to sleep. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, man. Well, that was a great Know Your Bud segment, man. I love some of the answers, man. It's always great hearing what other people, what their preferences are, man, when it comes to some of these stuff, man. So shout out to you on that, man. Really do appreciate it. Now, we did mention earlier on in the show, you touched on Aperture, man, and that is one of you guys is, you guys a new product, you guys new little baby, so to speak. So can you guys touch on that? Because I see you got a 7-day free trial. I'm not sure if it's still running, but it's pretty interesting, man. So break it down for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Aperture was, we started with Broadleaf, which was the full cultivation platform, and we realized that there's a market for people who need advanced analytics but don't have they don't have people on their staff, or they don't have the bandwidth or time to really be able to spend the time that it takes to create like all the advanced spreadsheets and turning those into reports. And this is where I was talking about, how do we tap into the data that you already have? So with Aperture, you can sign up, and all you have to do is put in for metric, leaflink, and trees. Those are the 3 systems we support today. We're adding new integrations all the time. You just have to connect to yours, to your API on those systems, and we automatically go out. It takes about 2 hours. Within 2 hours, I can give you dashboards and reports. I can tell you things about your grow that you don't even know.
You would have never thought possible, bro.
Exactly, in 2 hours. So for us, Aperture was that way to do it. It's 100% automated. There's no manual entry. There's no spreadsheets. And it will go back and pull your history all the way back to day one.
Yeah.
So that is our newest, like you said, that's our newest baby. And we're seeing people just love the capabilities and the fact that there's over 120, I think it's over 150 now, reports that come right out of the box. And like I said, those light up within 2 hours, because we go out, we grab all that historical data, we process it, and then all those reports then are just immediately available. And every day it updates with all the latest data and updates all those reports. So we're really excited about the product, and people that are using it just really love it, because it's so easy to get started. You just have to sign up and make the connection to your data, and you're up and running.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think a lot of people, they really love about what you guys are doing. You make it super easy for the home grower. Not everyone has, that computer tech savvy brain, can create spreadsheets and stuff. I was a lawyer. I'm still a lawyer, and I hate reading spreadsheets, dude. Like I don't even like
Sure.
working on Excel, So if I can avoid working on Excel, I'm gonna do that. And you guys are pulling all that. There's no spreadsheets. You can set it up in a super short space of time, and a lot of the reviews that I'm seeing as well, people have been using it in their grow facilities and they're having super great results. They're literally not looking back. Like right here, we've got Chris Fanta from Redbud's Roots. He says it's become a single source of truth for the entire company. So just to see you guys, leveling up on the already great software and coming out with something like Aperture, I think that that's a really, really great way to just pivot and position yourselves, man. And I think it's really great for us growers as well, because a lot of people need to improve their efficiency, man. So I got a question. Can any of this stuff be used for someone who's like, maybe a home grower going on a smaller scale? Can it be applicable to them? Because I think it'll be super cool, for a home grower to be able to figure out how many plants I'm gonna have by the end of the harvest or something.
Yeah, today the for the home grow, it relies on using some of the compliance tools already,
Gotcha.
like with Aperture, with Metric. But it's something we're keeping a really close eye on because we meet caregivers and home growers, and we know these tools are useful, can be useful for them. We're not quite there yet because on that smaller scale. But we absolutely are keeping our eye on that, and I mean,
Gotcha.
we want everybody to be able to use these
Yeah.
tools because it just our customers are getting such great results. So I wish I had a better answer for you today, but you know, stay tuned.
Nah, but we're good, dude. That's awesome, because I like that you guys, keeping your eyes on it, because it's something that I think it can definitely, translate into something cool like that. And a lot of the people, they're always looking for that new way to automate and make things a lot easier, man. And one question I did want to ask, before we close off, is about the silent revenue killers. You put on an awesome show last year, and if you can just drop one silent revenue killer for us, what would that one silent revenue killer that people need to be aware of? What would that be?
Yeah, I would say the one to really pay attention to is product mix. Keeping an
Okay.
eye on the market and knowing, if it's one thing to start with a pound of flour and really looking at and analyzing. If I sell it all as flour, what does that get me? If I process it to distillate and make cartridges, what does that get me? And so, really keeping an eye on where prices are and how to maximize your revenue based on what you do after the trim.
I got you.
That can make a huge difference, and it's so seasonal, and I mean, and it's volatile. So
Yeah.
staying on top of that and trying to plan in advance. Even if you can squeeze 10% more revenue out of the same raw material, that's gonna add up to a lot of money by the end of the year.
Yeah, so true, man. And that is an amazing tip. And a lot of people don't even really think about that. So it got me wondering when you said that. Do you find a lot of people, using a lot of the excess stuff that may otherwise have gone to waste? Now that they have the data, they're better able to use that stuff and avoid it going to waste. So a lot of the trim, you can use that for other materials, make other products and stuff. Has that improved efficiency in that regard as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about being able to forecast trim, and then from there, if you know what kind of production you get, for that material, you can avoid doing things like making more distillate than you can use. Because
Yeah,
yes, I mean, yes, eventually you'll be able to use that, but in the meantime, it's just sitting there. Whereas
yeah.
if you hadn't processed it all, you could have used it for other purposes. So
So
you
true.
know it's really about planning. It's about analyzing that data to figure out how do you just get the waste out of the process and make sure that everything is aligned to what is going to sell, and how do you maximize that.
Yeah, so true, man. And you dropped a lot of great points, a lot of great knowledge, and really opened up a lot of people's eyes when it comes to, just the importance of compliance, having your stuff in check, having your ducks in a row, and, maybe looking into something like Broadleaf Cannabis because they're doing some amazing stuff, man. And you can also sign up to their mailing list and you can get updates. So definitely sign up to their mailing list and check out their Instagram as well. But as the wave grows, a lot of more people are looking into getting their own little license, setting up their own little business, so to speak, and doing their own thing. So this is something that you guys definitely need to pay attention to, because it's something that can make or break your entire operation. So I
Absolutely.
think we've touched on a lot of different things. Eldon, anything else you want to mention before we close off?
I was just going to say, Aperture is our new product. We normally do a 7-day trial, but we have a promo code, ICAN THC. We'll do a 21-day, a 3-week trial, just for
Wow.
people who come from the podcast here.
That's amazing, man. So guys, definitely check out Aperture. And Eldon has been so kind, man. So huge shout out to Eldon. You can use the discount code ICANTHE and you can get an even longer trial, man. So that's definitely something you should check out. I know a lot of you guys will get value from that. So smash the like button for that. Huge thanks to Eldon. But Eldon, for everyone who wants to get in touch with you, maybe find out what you guys are doing, maybe see what you guys have got next on the radar. Where can they find you guys?
Yeah, so if you just go to aperture.io, that's our website for Aperture. All of our information is there. You can sign up for a demo. You can contact us. We're more than happy to talk to people and answer any questions and give you a demo. And you can always reach out to me, Elden at broadleafcannabis.com. I love talking to people in the industry. One of my favorite things about this industry is the fact that people share information and help each other out, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can.
Hell yeah, so true, man. And that's the beautiful thing about the community, man. And the community is all you guys watching right now. So huge thanks to Eldon for coming on. Huge thanks to Eldon for providing that special code, man, that you guys can use, and you guys can get an awesome trial on the new Aperture software, which is honestly mind-blowing. It's super crazy. I'm gonna try to get into some of that. And I got some homies, I think, that will as well, man. So guys, smash the like button. We had an awesome episode today with Eldon. Eldon, thank you so much for kicking with us, man. I had a blast.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I really appreciate coming on, and this was fun.
Hell yeah, man. It's always fun when you're around, Eldon. So thank you so much, man. I really did appreciate it, man. On behalf of everyone that's watching the premiere right now and the thousands that'll watch it afterward, thank you so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate it, man. And guys, most importantly, don't forget, stay high and stay fly. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace, fam.